Ladies and gentlemen, Chicago Council on Global Affairs President Ivo Daalder.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Chicago and to the 2017 Forum on Global Cities. I am Ivo Daalder, the President of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, and it's great to have all of you here. It's difficult to imagine a more timely moment for us to convene this particular forum. In the year since we last met here in Chicago, indeed, just in the last few days, we have seen examples of something that is quite extraordinary. Cities are increasingly becoming important as players on the national stage, bypassing, when necessary, national governments to look to each other for solutions to global problems. In the last week alone, mayors and city leaders across this country affirmed their support for what had originally been an agreement among nations, the Paris Climate Accord. Yet, climate change is not an outlier in city-to-city coordination. Quite the opposite. It's happening as well on issues of inclusion, immigration, health, security, governance, and human rights, and indeed so many other critical issues that face our world today. In fact, extraordinary is perhaps the wrong word to describe this trend. Direct city-to-city coordination is emerging and maturing and becoming wonderfully ordinary. Why? Why is this happening? The answer is that urbanization is the most consequential force shaping our political order in this century. It is undoubtedly the most dynamic force. More than 500 cities around the world now have a population of more than 1 million people. And yet that statistic alone does not quite capture the staggering pace at which cities are growing. In 1950, 1/3 of the world lived in urban areas. Today, well over half do. By 2050, it will be over 2/3, 6.3 billion people who will live and work in urban areas. At this very moment, a Chicago-sized city is being added to the world's population every 2 weeks. And that's why we need to engage the new people who are moving to cities and being born there, the next generation, about the power and promise and the challenges and capabilities that cities have is now even more important. And therefore, we're delighted today to have so many young professionals with us, including 32 students from global universities all around the world. Cities also hold great economic power, greater than ever. 80% of the world's economic output comes from cities. But so too do more than 70% of the greenhouse gases that are being emitted in the world. Politically and culturally, cities are the vanguards of openness, the champions of globalization. Important qualities in a time when nationalist and anti-globalist sentiments are re-emerging. Taken together, what these trends means is clear. A future dominated by cities is rapidly becoming our present. And so, as we have done in the previous 2 years, we're gathered in this global city here in Chicago to discuss the essential role of global cities in a changing world. But this year, in some ways, is different from previous years. The questions we hope to answer over the next few days are entirely new, and for good reason. Where previously we asked if cities drive the global economy, now we ask how they will continue to do so. Before we asked if cities could have a foreign policy. Now we're more interested in the examples of cities' diplomacy doing it at their best. Before we asked whether cities could challenge national governments for political power on the global stage. Today we know they are. We want to know how they will continue to do so and to better the lives of the citizens of our cities. There are many ways to start. In fact, the Council has just released a new report that outlines the priorities for Chicago's global strategy. That report, which is available outside, is a great resource for leaders from Chicago and from other global cities on how to organize ourselves in the many ideas that we have heard and learned, not only from Chicago, but by traveling around the world and by having the forum like this, about how we can meaningfully and create an actionable agenda for global change. I encourage you all to download and read the task force report at your leisure. We also have copies available of a special report on cities that the Financial Times published today. Many of the journalists who are here with us are either moderating or participating in the panels over the next few days, and they have contributed to the special section. Of course, none of this happens by accident. It takes a small city to organize this Global City Forum. On behalf of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs and the Financial Times, I would like to, first of all, to thank all of the speakers who are joining us here today, more than 50 from all corners of the world. We're able to be here today as well in this wonderful setting in which mayors and architects and CEOs, educators and journalists and people and all of you are gathered because forward-thinking corporations and organizations believe that global issues addressed here today are critical. They're right, and we're glad that they are with us here. I want to thank, therefore, our sponsors, lead sponsors, AbbVie and UL, of course, also our supporting sponsors, Grant Thornton, Hyatt Hotels Foundation, Motorola Solutions, United Airlines, and USG Corporation, and our foundation sponsor, the Robert McCormick Foundation. Thanks to all of you for your support. I also want to thank our international and civil partners who have made possible the richness of the content of the next few days. None of this is possible without your presence and your support. Finally, I want to thank the 500 delegates who are joining us here over the next few days from more than 36 countries. You've made the trek to Chicago. We gave you the nice weather, which comes free. You don't have to pay for that, and it's part of what we do here in the Council, but we're very pleased to have you. Thank you as well for everyone who's watching us online. Remember, tweet early and often. The hashtag is GlobalCities2017. We're set to begin what I'm sure will be an important series of discussions and conversations. It's our hope that what is said here carries over after the forum to enrich discussions in other global cities here in Chicago and around the world. Before we start, however, I also want to take a moment to remember Benjamin Barber, a friend and a partner who worked with us on cities and passed away earlier this year. Ben was a pioneering leader on thinking about the roles of cities play in the world today. Insights he shared in best-selling books and on this very stage during our inaugural forum 2 years ago. I think he would have enjoyed the program we have planned for you. Now it's my great pleasure to welcome the U.S. Managing Editor of the Financial Times, our partner in this endeavor for the past 3 years, Gillian Tett.